Every dead civilization had one rule: never awaken Earth's warriors, the dust on Osnath. Prime had not been disturbed for 3,000 years. Captain Daesung stepped carefully through the ruins of what once was the greatest library in the Valkyrie Empire. His boots left prints in the red sand that covered everything. Behind him, Dr. Minji scanned the ancient walls with her equipment, searching for anything that might still work. "This place is massive," Tiemann said, his voice echoing through the empty halls. The young security officer kept his hand near his weapon, though nothing had lived here for millennia. "Why did they abandon it?" "They didn't abandon it," Minji replied, studying her scanner. "Something killed them. All of them. In less than a generation, the entire Valkyrie civilization just stopped." Ambassador Hyon walked beside Daesung, his diplomatic robes gathering dust. He had been sent by Earth's government to observe the expedition. The Galactic Coalition wanted to know why so many ancient civilizations had collapsed. 17 dead empires in 10,000 years. All of them had been powerful, advanced, and then suddenly gone. The team had been exploring the archive for 3 days. They found records of Valkyrie science, art, and philosophy, but they found nothing about what killed them. Until now. "Captain, I'm getting strange readings from below," Minji said, pointing to her device. "There's a structure underneath us. It's sealed with some kind of energy field. A strong one." Daesung nodded. "Can we get through it?" "Maybe, but it will take time. Whatever they sealed down there, they really didn't want anyone to find it." The team worked for 6 hours to break through the ancient locks. When the seal finally broke, a doorway opened in the floor. Stairs led down into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, powered by some source that had waited centuries to activate. They descended into a vault. The room was small but packed with data crystals, thousands of them, all arranged on shelves that covered every wall. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with a single crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. "This is it," Minji whispered. "This is what they were hiding." Tiemann picked up one of the crystals from a shelf. "They all have the same symbol on them." "What does it mean?" Minji examined the symbol carefully. "It's a warning. The same warning written in 17 different languages, all of them from dead civilizations. What does it say?" Hayam asked. Minji placed the crystal into her scanner. The device hummed as it translated the ancient text. Her face went pale as she read the results. "It says, the sleepers of the third planet must never wake. Let them dream forever." Daesung felt a chill run down his spine. "The third planet. That's Earth." "There's more," Minji continued, reading from her scanner. "It's a warning that was shared between all these civilizations. They all knew about Earth. They all agreed to stay away from it." "Why?" Tiemann asked. "What's so special about Earth?" Minji picked up another crystal and scanned it. Then another. And another. Each one told the same story in different words. The ancient civilizations had discovered Earth thousands of years ago. They had watched humanity develop, and they had been terrified. "They called it the Pacification Protocol," Minji said, her voice shaking. "Every advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy worked together to keep humanity isolated. They fed us false information. They prevented us from developing certain technologies. They even erased our memories of first contact." "That's impossible," Hyon said. "The Galactic Coalition made first contact with Earth only 800 years ago. We have records of it." "Those records are lies," Minji replied. "According to this, first contact happened 3,000 years ago, during Earth's Bronze Age, and it went very badly." Daesung approached the central pedestal and lifted the glowing crystal. "What's on this one?" Minji took it from him and placed it in her scanner. The device projected a hologram into the air. It showed a Valkyrie military commander. His face covered in what looked like fear. The hologram spoke in an ancient language, but Minji's scanner translated it. "This is Fleet Commander of the Valkyrie Empire, recording my final report. We have lost 60% of our forces. The third planet's inhabitants have destroyed our forward bases. They have captured our ships. They have learned our technology in a single generation. The hologram flickered. We do not understand how they fight. They do not follow logical patterns. They sacrifice themselves willingly for small advantages. They never surrender. They never forget. They adapt to every strategy we use against them within days. The commander's voice became quieter. I am ordering all remaining forces to retreat. All monitoring stations around the third planet must be maintained at maximum distance. No contact. No interference. Let them sleep. Let them dream. If they ever wake fully, if they ever reach the stars with their warrior nature intact, no civilization in the galaxy will be safe. The hologram ended. The vault fell silent. This can't be right, Teeman said. Humans aren't like that. We're peaceful. We joined the Galactic Coalition without any conflict. Because they made sure we would be peaceful, Minji said. They shaped our development. They controlled what we became. Suddenly alarms blared from Daesung's communicator. Captain, this is the ship. We're detecting an incoming signal. Someone knows we're here. Before Daesung could respond, the vault began to shake. The walls lit up with red emergency lighting. Ancient defense systems that had been dormant for thousands of years started activating. We need to leave. Now, Daesung ordered. The team ran for the stairs, but metal doors began closing throughout the archive. Teeman fired his weapon at one door, trying to blast it open, but the ancient metal held. This way, Minji shouted. Finding an alternate route through a collapsed wall, they climbed over rubble and squeezed through narrow gaps. Behind them, they could hear mechanical sounds as the archive's defense systems came online. Whatever had been sleeping here was waking up. The team reached their shuttle, just as weapons turrets emerged from the sand around them. Daesung pushed the engines to maximum power, and the shuttle lifted off. Energy beams fired from the turrets, missing them by meters as they escaped into orbit. Daesung looked back at the planet. The entire archive complex was now glowing with power. After 3,000 years of silence, something had triggered it to defend itself. Did anyone else come here? Han asked. Who sent that signal? I don't know, Daesung replied. But they knew exactly when we opened that vault. Minji clutched the data crystals they had managed to grab. We need to get this information to Earth. The Galactic Coalition has been lying to us for centuries. Humanity has a history we know nothing about. And if this information is true, Hyen added quietly, the galaxy has been afraid of us this entire time. Daesung set course for the nearest coalition station. Behind them, Osnath Prime's ancient defenses continued to glow in the darkness of space. A warning system that had waited 3,000 years had finally been triggered. The sleepers were beginning to stir. Every dead civilization had one rule: never awaken Earth's warriors. The Galactic Coalition Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 40 different species sat in their seats, watching as Dr. Minji presented the data crystals from Osnath Prime. The holographic displays showed the Valkyrie warnings. Translated into every major language. Council Prime Jion stood beside Minji, her face calm despite the chaos this information had caused. She was the human representative on the council, and she had fought for years to earn her position. Now, everything she had built was at risk. These records show that humanity's first contact with alien species occurred 3,000 years ago. Minji explained. The Valkyrie Empire attempted to establish contact with Earth during our Bronze Age. The encounter resulted in a war that destroyed 60% of their military forces in just 5 years. A representative from the Thalen species stood up. His skin was blue and his forearms gestured in agitation. This is a lie. Humans could not have defeated the Valkyrie. They were one of the most powerful civilizations in galactic history. The records don't lie, Minji replied. And the Valkyrie weren't the only ones. We found evidence that 16 other civilizations had similar encounters with humans throughout our history. All of them chose to implement what they called the pacification protocol. What does that mean exactly? Asked another council member. Minji brought up another display. It means they deliberately slowed our technological development. They prevented us from discovering certain weapons technologies. They erased our memories of alien contact. They shaped our entire civilization to make us peaceful and cooperative. The chamber erupted into arguing. Some species demanded that humans be removed from the council immediately. Others wanted explanations. A few remained silent, their expressions difficult to read. Jian raised her hand, calling for order. We understand this information is disturbing, but humanity today is not the same as humanity 3,000 years ago. We have been members of this council for 800 years. We have never shown aggression toward any member species. Because you were controlled, the Phelan representative said. But now you know the truth. What happens when your warrior nature returns? Commander Sunwoo watched the council meeting from his ship, the Eternal Vigilance. He commanded one of Earth's defense fleets, positioned near human colony worlds. His orders had always been simple: protect human civilians and maintain peace with the coalition, but now his orders were unclear. If the coalition decided humanity was a threat, would they act against human worlds? Would he have to defend Earth against the very alliance they had joined? His communications officer approached. Sir, we're receiving reports from human colonies. They're experiencing communications blackouts. Someone is jamming our signals. Which colonies? All of them, sir. Every human settlement outside the Sol system has lost contact with Earth. Sunwoo felt his stomach tighten. That's not a coincidence. Someone is trying to isolate us. Back on the Coalition's central station, Dr. Yuno worked frantically in her laboratory. She was a linguistics specialist, and she had been given access to all the data crystals from Osnath Prime. What she was discovering made her blood run cold. The warnings weren't just about human military strength. They were about something deeper. She found references to human psychology, human social structures, human creativity. The ancient civilizations hadn't just feared humanity's ability to fight. They feared humanity's ability to inspire, to adapt, to never give up. Valkyrie texts described humans as a species that weaponizes. Hope, another called them warriors, who fight with their minds as much as their bodies. A third simply said, they make others believe the impossible is possible. Yuno rushed to find Jinwoo, the intelligence officer who had been investigating the data. She found him in a secure room, staring at a star map. I know why the communications are being jammed, he said before she could speak. Look at this. The star map showed Earth's solar system. Around it, in a perfect sphere, were dozens of small stations. Most were dark and dead, but 3 of them glowed with active power signatures. Those are monitoring stations, Jinwoo explained. They've been there for thousands of years. We always thought they were dead satellites from old civilizations. But 3 of them are still active, still watching us. Who's operating them? Yuna asked. An organization called the Watchers. They're descendants of species that survived encounters with ancient humans. They've been keeping the monitoring network operational, making sure humanity stayed under control. And now? Now someone else has accessed their network. Someone is using those stations to jam our communications and isolate human worlds. I think someone wants to wake up humanity's warrior nature on purpose. On the council station, the meeting had descended into chaos. Jian tried to maintain order, but too many species were demanding action. A vote was called to place all human worlds under protective supervision. It was a polite way of saying humanity would become prisoners in their own homes. This is a mistake, Jian argued. If you treat us as enemies, you will create the very thing you fear. You are already what we fear, the Phelan representative said. You always have been. The only question is whether we can contain you before you remember what you are. The vote was close, but it passed. Human worlds would be supervised. Human ships would be restricted. Human representatives would be removed from military command positions. Jian walked out of the chamber feeling defeated. She had spent her life building bridges between humanity and the galaxy. Now those bridges were burning. Ambassador Haiyun met her in the corridor. This is bad? The colonies are already panicking. If the Coalition tries to enforce these restrictions, people will resist. I know, Jian said. We need to find out who's behind this. Who jammed our communications? Who wants to start a conflict between humans and the Coalition? On his ship, Commander Sunwoo received new orders from Earth's government. They were simple. Do not engage Coalition forces unless attacked. Protect human civilians. Wait for more information. But Sunwoo's sensors were showing something that made those orders difficult to follow. Unknown vessels were moving toward human space. They weren't Coalition ships. Their design was old, ancient even, and they were powering weapons. Sir, those ships are moving into attack position around the colony on New Terra, his tactical officer reported. Can you identify them? No, sir. But their weapon signatures match technology from the Valkyrie era. Sunwoo made a decision. He couldn't wait for orders when human lives were at risk. All ships intercept course. Prepare for combat. His fleet moved to protect New Terra. As they approached, the ancient ships opened fire. Not on Sunwoo's fleet, but on the colony itself, the attack was brutal and precise. The ancient ships targeted civilian centers, communication hubs, and schools. They were trying to cause maximum casualties and terror. Sunwoo's fleet returned fire, destroying several of the ancient ships. But the damage was done. New Terra's capital city was burning. Thousands of humans were dead or wounded. As rescue operations began, Sunwoo received reports from other human colonies. They had been attacked too. All at the same time? All by the same type of ancient ships on Earth? The news spread rapidly. Images of burning colonies. Lists of the dead. Stories of families destroyed, and something began to change in humanity. Something old and buried started to wake up. Gyeon and watched the news broadcasts from the council station. She saw the anger in people's faces. She heard the calls for revenge. She felt something stirring in herself too, something she had never felt before, a desire not just for justice but for victory. Not just to defend, but to destroy those who had attacked them. She remembered the Valkyrie commander's warning, if they ever wake fully, number civilization in the galaxy will be safe. As she watched Earth's response unfold, Jian realized with horror that the warning was coming true. The attacks on the colonies hadn't destroyed humanity's spirit. They had ignited something that had been sleeping for 3,000 years. The warriors were waking up. Every dead civilization had one rule: never awaken. Earth's Warriors Council Prime Jian received the message at midnight. It came through a channel that shouldn't have existed, encrypted with codes that predated the Galactic Coalition itself. The message was simple: we need to talk. We are the Watchers. We have been watching you since the beginning. 3 hours later, Jian sat in a secret meeting room on Nexus Station. Across from her sat 3 aliens, each from a different species. They wore simple gray robes, and their faces carried the weight of terrible knowledge. We are descendants of civilizations that survived encounters with your ancestors, the first Watcher said. She was from a species called the Remnants, and her voice was soft but firm. Our people learned the hard way what happens when humanity is provoked. You've been spying on us, Jian said, trying to control her anger. You're the ones maintaining those monitoring stations around Earth. Yes, the second Watcher admitted. He was tall and thin, with 6 fingers on each hand. We have watched you for 3,000 years. Not to harm you, but to protect the galaxy from what you can become. And now someone has used your network to attack our colonies, Jian said. Who? The third Watcher, who had not yet spoken, finally answered. The Kravish Dominion? They are an expansionist empire from beyond Coalition space. They discovered the truth about humanity and saw an opportunity. What opportunity? The first Watcher activated a holographic display. It showed the Kravish Dominion, a massive empire that controlled thousands of worlds. The Kravish have been expanding for 500 years. They have conquered 23 civilizations. But now they face the Coalition's border defenses, which they cannot break through conventional means. So they want to use us as a weapon, Jian said, understanding. Exactly. They attacked your colonies to wake up your warrior nature. Once you are fully militarized, they plan to offer you an alliance. They will aim you at their enemies and watch you destroy what they cannot. Jiyeon felt sick. And you let this happen? We tried to stop it, the second watcher said. But the Kravish hacked our monitoring network. By the time we regained control, the attacks had already occurred. We are sorry for the lives lost. Sorry doesn't bring them back, Jiyeon said coldly. The first watcher nodded. You are right. But we can help you understand what is happening to your people. Would you like to see the truth about humanity's past? Jiyeon wanted to refuse, but she needed to know. Show me. The watchers activated another holographic display. This one showed Earth, 10,000 years in the past. A Valkyrie survey ship crashed in what would later be called the Mediterranean Sea. The crew survived and tried to repair their ship. Local humans discovered them. The Valkyrie tried to communicate peacefully. At first, it worked. The humans were curious and helpful. Trade began? Ideas were exchanged. Then the Valkyrie made a mistake. They tried to take some humans back to their homeworld for study. The humans they took resisted. A fight broke out. Valkyrie soldiers killed 3 humans. That's when everything changed. The hologram showed what happened next. The human tribes united. They studied the crashed Valkyrie ship. They learned how the weapons worked. Within a year, they had created their own versions using bronze and stone and captured Valkyrie technology. The Valkyrie sent more ships to retrieve their crew. The humans ambushed them. They used tactics the Valkyrie had never seen before. False retreats, night attacks, psychological warfare. They made the Valkyrie afraid to leave their ships. This doesn't make sense, Jiyeon said. Bronze Age humans couldn't have defeated a spacefaring civilization. That's what the Valkyrie thought too, the third watcher said. But they underestimated human adaptability. Your ancestors didn't try to match Valkyrie technology. They exploited its weaknesses. They learned how Valkyrie thought and used that against them. The hologram continued. It showed the conflict spreading. More Valkyrie forces arrived. The humans kept learning, kept adapting, kept fighting. They turned captured Valkyrie soldiers into allies by treating them well and showing them the injustice of the invasion. They weaponized guilt, honor, and empathy. Within 5 years, the Valkyrie had lost 60% of their forces. Not because humans had better weapons, but because they had better strategy, better determination, and an absolute refusal to surrender. The Valkyrie fleet commander finally ordered a complete retreat, the first watcher explained. He implemented the pacification protocol. All records of the encounter were sealed. Humanity's memory of the event was suppressed using advanced technology. The Valkyrie began the long process of shaping human development to prevent this from ever happening again. And it worked, Jiyeon said quietly. For 3,000 years, humanity has been peaceful. Yes, but now the Kravish have undone that work. They have given humanity a reason to fight. On Earth, Admiral Soman stood in the military command center, watching reports flood in from across human space. The response to the colony attacks was unprecedented. Volunteers were joining the military in numbers they had never seen before. Engineers were working around the clock to upgrade ships and weapons. Scientists were developing new technologies at an impossible pace. Admiral, we're receiving strange reports from our psychologists, her aide said. Soldiers are reporting dreams, memories that don't belong to them, tactical knowledge they never learned. What kind of knowledge? Soman asked. Military strategy, ancient warfare techniques. Some are describing battles from Earth's history in perfect detail, even though they never studied history. Soman felt a chill. Genetic memory. It's in our DNA, ma'am? Our ancestors' experiences encoded in our genes. The stress of the attacks is activating dormant sequences. We're not just learning how to fight. We're remembering. At that moment, a young pilot named Haniel volunteered for a dangerous mission. Intelligence had determined that the attack ships came from Kravish space. Someone needed to scout their territory and gather information? It was almost certainly a suicide mission. "I'll go," Haniel said simply. "We need to know what we're facing." "You understand you probably won't come back," Soman said. "I understand. But if I don't come back, my death will still provide information. The Kravish will reveal their tactics by how they kill me. Others can learn from that." Soman saw something in Haniel's eyes that disturbed her. The young pilot wasn't being brave or self-sacrificing in a normal way. She was calculating. She had already accepted her death and was planning how to make it useful. This was what the ancient civilizations had feared. Humans who could look at their own death as a tactical advantage. Back on Nexus Station, Dr. Kyung was going through the historical records the Watchers had provided. She was a historian, and what she found shocked her. Every civilization that encountered humans followed the same pattern. First contact. Cultural exchange. A misunderstanding or deliberate provocation. Human response, escalation, and then collapse, but it wasn't just military defeat. The civilizations fell because humans changed them. Human ideas spread like a virus through alien cultures. Human determination inspired alien species to fight harder than they ever had before. Human creativity showed aliens new possibilities they had never considered. "They didn't just fear our weapons," Kyung told Minji over a video call. "They feared our influence." Every species that allied with humans became more aggressive, more creative, more dangerous. Humanity made other species more like us. "That's why they isolated us," Minji replied. "We're infectious." On his flagship, Commander Sunwoo prepared his fleet for what was coming. He knew the Kravish would attack again. But this time, humanity would be ready. He studied the reports from the colony attacks. He analyzed the Kravish tactics. And he found patterns, weaknesses, opportunities. His mind worked in ways it never had before, seeing strategies and counter-strategies that seemed to come from nowhere. It was the genetic memory, he realized. His ancestors had fought thousands of battles. That knowledge was waking up inside him. "All ships, listen carefully," he broadcast to his fleet. "The Kravish think they understand warfare. They think they can predict us. But they're wrong. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. We're going to fight like humans." The Watcher's final revelation came in the form of a recorded message. It was from the first species to encounter humans. So long ago that their name had been forgotten, the recording showed a dying alien making a final statement. "We thought we could conquer the third planet. We were wrong. We thought we could make them surrender. We were wrong. We thought we could scare them. We were wrong. They don't fear death. They weaponize it. They don't just fight for themselves. They fight for ideas, for justice, for revenge. They turn every loss into fuel for more resistance. And worst of all, they make us doubt ourselves. They make us question if our cause is just. They win not just with weapons, but with words and thoughts and feelings. Avoid them, always." Jian returned to Earth after her meeting with the Watchers. She had to address her planet, her species, her people. What she said would determine humanity's future. She stood before cameras that broadcast to every human world. Behind her were images of the destroyed colonies. Names of the dead scrolled on screens. "The galaxy has feared us for thousands of years," she said. "Now we know why. Our ancestors were warriors beyond anything the galaxy had seen." Every dead civilization had one rule: never awaken Earth's warriors. The first battle of the war went exactly as the Kravish predicted. Their fleet outnumbered the human defenders 3-1. Their weapons were more powerful. Their shields were stronger. They destroyed 12 human ships in the opening minutes. Then something changed. Commander Sunwoo didn't retreat. He didn't try to match the Kravish firepower. Instead, he did something that made no sense to the Kravish tactical computers. He ordered his damaged ships to fly directly at the enemy. The Kravish thought it was a desperate suicide attack. They focused their fire on the approaching ships, destroying them one by one. But while they were focused on the obvious threat, Sun Wu's remaining ships flanked them from an unexpected angle. More importantly, the damaged ships weren't empty. Their crews had already evacuated to smaller fighters. When the Kravish destroyed the ships, they created debris fields that disrupted their own formations. Sun Wu had turned his losses into weapons. The battle was still a defeat for humanity. They lost more ships and more people, but they learned. And learning was what humans did best. Admiral Soman watched the battle reports with growing concern. Not because humanity was losing, but because of how her commanders were adapting. Sun Wu's tactics had been brilliant but cruel. He had sacrificed ships and crew members for tactical advantage without hesitation. "This is what the ancients feared," she said to her staff. "We're becoming efficient at warfare." Within weeks, the pattern became clear. Every battle followed the same cycle. The Kravish would attack with superior force. Humans would lose but learn. The next battle, humans would use what they learned. They would lose less. They would hurt the Kravish more. Then they would learn again. General Borom emerged as humanity's most effective commander. She was young, barely 30 years old, but she understood warfare in a way that terrified even her own people. She didn't just predict enemy movements. She understood enemy psychology. In one famous battle, she deliberately retreated from a strategic position, letting the Kravish capture it. The Kravish commander celebrated the victory and rushed forward to press his advantage. But Borom had left behind false intelligence that the position was more important than it actually was. The Kravish committed their reserves to hold it. Then Borom attacked their real target, which was now undefended. "She fights with their minds, not just their ships," one of her officers said. Scientist Genho made a breakthrough that changed the war. He realized that humanity didn't need to match Kravish technology. They needed to subvert it. His team developed a computer virus that could infect Kravish ship systems. But it wasn't a normal virus. It didn't shut down systems or cause malfunctions. Instead, it made tiny changes to sensor data. It made enemy ships appear closer than they were. It made friendly ships appear as enemies. The virus spread through the Kravish fleet like a disease. Soon, Kravish ships were avoiding areas where there were no threats and ignoring real dangers. Some ships even fired on their own allies by mistake. "We're not fighting their ships," Junho explained. "We're fighting their trust in their own systems." Haniel returned from her reconnaissance mission after 6 months. Everyone had assumed she was dead, but she had survived by doing the impossible. She had stolen a Kravish supply ship and traveled through their empire, gathering intelligence. Her report was devastating. The Kravish had a massive military, but it was designed for overwhelming force against weaker enemies. They had no experience fighting enemies who adapted quickly. Their command structure was rigid. Their tactics were predictable once you understood their patterns. "They fight like they're playing a game with fixed rules," Haniel said. "But we keep changing the rules." As the war progressed, something disturbing began happening in human space. The civilian population was militarizing without government orders. Engineers volunteered to build weapons. Teachers were training students in tactical thinking. Artists were creating propaganda that inspired people to fight harder. It wasn't government policy. It was spontaneous, as if humanity's collective unconscious had decided that survival required total war. Dr. Minji studied the phenomenon and made a troubling discovery. The genetic memory isn't just giving people tactical knowledge. It's changing their values. People are starting to prioritize victory over everything else. Peace, compassion, even individual lives are becoming less important than winning. "We're regressing," Soman said when she heard the report. "We're becoming what we used to be." "Or what we always were," Minji replied. "The pacification protocol didn't change our nature. It just suppressed it. Now it's coming back." The Galactic Coalition watched humanity's transformation with fear. Some species wanted to intervene and help the Kravish defeat humanity before it was too late. Others argued that fighting humanity would only make things worse. Council Prime Jian found herself isolated. Other species no longer trusted her. They saw her as a potential threat, a warrior pretending to be a diplomat, but the Watchers contacted her again. There is something the ancient records didn't include, the first watcher told her. Something important. What? Every time humans encountered alien civilizations, they offered peace first. It was only when that peace was rejected or humans were attacked that they became warriors. Your ancestors didn't fight for conquest. They fought for survival and protection. Ji-eun felt hope for the first time in months. You're saying we can control this? We're saying you always had control. The warrior nature isn't random violence. It's purposeful. It's directed. Give humanity a purpose beyond revenge and they will follow it. On the front lines, Commander Sun Woo was preparing for a major offensive. Intelligence showed that the Kravish main fleet was gathering for a decisive push toward Earth itself. It would be the largest space battle in history, but Sun Woo was troubled. He had been dreaming about ancient battles, seeing tactics that had worked thousands of years ago. The genetic memories were strong now. Sometimes he couldn't tell which thoughts were his own and which came from his ancestors. "Sir, are you all right?" his tactical officer asked. "I'm fine," Sun Woo lead. Just thinking about the battle. The truth was he was afraid. Not of dying, but of what he was becoming. The old Sun Woo would have looked for ways to minimize casualties. The new Sun Woo calculated acceptable losses without emotion. The old Sun Woo wanted to protect people. The new Sun Woo wanted to win. Whatever the cost, General Borum's forces won a significant victory, destroying a Kravish supply base and capturing several ships. But the victory came at a high cost. She had ordered an attack that she knew would result in heavy casualties. It worked, but hundreds of her own soldiers died. When questioned about her decision, she said simply, "They died so that thousands more could live." It was the right choice. Her words chilled Admiral Soman. It was the right tactical decision. But the Borum from a year ago would never have made it. The genetic memory was changing her, making her more ruthless, more willing to sacrifice. Teeman, the young security officer who had helped discover the Valkyrie archive, was now commanding his own ship. He had seen more combat in 6 months than most soldiers saw in a lifetime. He was good at it. Too good, he realized he enjoyed the tactical challenge of warfare. The problem-solving, the quick thinking, the satisfaction of outsmarting an enemy. It scared him how natural it felt. "Is this who we really are?" He asked Captain Daesung during a quiet moment. Daesung, who now commanded a battle group, considered the question carefully. "I think we're many things. We can be warriors when we need to be. But that's not all we are. The trick is remembering the other parts." As human forces pushed deeper into Kravish territory, other species began to notice something. Planets that humanity liberated from Kravish control weren't being conquered. They were being freed. Human soldiers were helping civilians, rebuilding infrastructure, providing medical care. The human military machine was terrifying in its efficiency. But it was still human. The warriors remembered they were also protectors. The Watchers sent a final message to humanity. It contained a recording from the last Valkyrie fleet commander, the one who had implemented the pacification protocol. "I am making this recording as a confession," the commander said. "We told ourselves we were protecting the galaxy by containing humanity. But the truth is we were protecting ourselves. We were afraid. Not just of human weapons, but of human values. They believed in things we had forgotten. Justice, protection, sacrifice for others. They made us question our own righteousness. That was more dangerous than any weapon. So we tried to make them forget who they were. It was not for the galaxy's good. It was for our own comfort. I am sorry." Admiral Soman watched the recording and made a decision. She contacted Council Prime Jian with a proposal. "We're winning this war," Soman said. "But we're losing ourselves in the process. The genetic memory is making us effective warriors, but it's also making us less human. We need to give people something to fight for beyond revenge. Something that reminds them of the better parts of humanity. What do you suggest?" Jian asked. "Tell the galaxy why we're really fighting. Not for conquest. Not for revenge. For protection. For justice. Turn this war into something meaningful." Jian understood. The warrior nature could be channeled, directed, given purpose. Every dead civilization had one rule: never awaken Earth's warriors. General Borum stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the Kravish homeworld grow larger on the viewscreen. Her fleet had conquered in 3 months what the Kravish had spent centuries building. Every battle had been a victory. Every strategy had worked. The enemy was broken, retreating, defeated, but she felt empty. "We could take their homeworld in a week," her tactical officer said. "They have no defenses left that could stop us." Borum nodded. A year ago, the thought of conquering another species' homeworld would have horrified her. Now it was just another tactical objective. The genetic memory had made her efficient, ruthless, perfect at warfare, and she hated what she had become. On Earth, Captain Daesung walked through a military cemetery. Row after row of markers represented the soldiers who had died in the war. Thousands of them, tens of thousands. All of them had been his responsibility at some point. He remembered each major battle, each decision he had made that led to these deaths. The old Daesung would have been crushed by guilt. The new Daesung understood. They were acceptable losses in pursuit of victory. He wasn't sure which version of himself he preferred. Dr. Minji was studying the psychological data from across human space. What she found confirmed her worst fears. Humanity was winning the war, but losing something essential. Empathy scores were dropping. Compassion was being replaced by cold calculation. The warrior genes were fully active now, and they were changing people at a fundamental level. "If we don't stop this soon," she told Admiral Soman, "we won't be able to turn it off. Humanity will become a species of warriors permanently." "Can it be reversed?" Soman asked. "Maybe, if we give people a reason to value peace again. If we remind them what they're fighting to protect, not just what they're fighting against." The Watchers had been quiet since their last message, but now they reached out one final time, and what they shared changed everything. "We found something in the oldest records," the first Watcher told Council Prime Jian. "From the very first civilization to encounter humanity. Your ancestors didn't just fight, they also healed. They protected the weak, they showed mercy to defeated enemies. The warrior nature was always paired with a protector nature. You didn't just remember how to fight, you need to remember how to care." Jian had been working on her message to humanity and the galaxy. Now she understood what it needed to say. She contacted Admiral Soman, General Borum, and Commander Sunwoo. She asked them all to pause their operations for 24 hours. "We need to decide what kind of species we want to be," she told them. "We're about to win this war, but what happens after? Do we become conquerors? Do we keep fighting until there's no one left to fight? Or do we prove the ancient civilizations wrong and show them we can choose peace?" "The Kravish attacked us," Borum said. "They killed our people. They deserve to face justice." "I agree," Jian replied. "But justice isn't the same as annihilation." "We can defeat them without destroying them," Soman spoke up. "What exactly are you proposing?" "I want to broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. I want to reframe what this war is about. We're not conquering the Kravish, we're liberating the people they've oppressed. We're not seeking revenge, we're establishing justice. We're not fighting for Earth, we're fighting for a principle." Commander Sunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You want to give us a reason to stop?" "I want to give you a reason to choose peace even though you could choose victory." That's what the ancient civilizations couldn't understand. They thought humanity's warrior nature was uncontrollable. But it never was. It's a tool, not an identity. We use it when we must, but we don't let it define us. The broadcast went out across every human world and was transmitted to every species in the galaxy. Jian stood before the cameras, and behind her were displayed images not of battles, but of human soldiers helping civilians, humans rebuilding destroyed cities, humans providing medical care to wounded enemies. The Kravish Dominion attacked. "Our colonies hoping to awaken Earth's warriors," she said. They succeeded, but they didn't understand what they were awakening. Human warriors don't fight for conquest. They fight to protect, they fight for justice, they fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. She paused, letting her words sink in. We have defeated the Kravish military. We could destroy their homeworld. We could take revenge for every life they took from us, but that's not what humanity does. We offer them a choice. Surrender, face trial for your crimes. Allow the civilizations you've conquered to be free. And we will show you the same mercy we wish you had shown our colonies. Some will say we are being weak, that we should finish what the Kravish started. But strength isn't just the ability to destroy. True strength is having the power to destroy, but choosing peace instead. The message reached General Borum's fleet as they prepared for the final assault on the Kravish homeworld. She watched it twice, feeling something shift inside her. The warrior instincts were still there, still strong, but something else was returning too. The part of her that cared about more than just winning. She contacted her fleet. Change of plans. We're not attacking the homeworld. We're surrounding it and offering terms of surrender. If they attack us, we defend. If they surrender, we accept. Her officers looked confused. One of them said, "Sir, we could end this war today." "We are ending it," Borum replied. "On our terms, not theirs." The Kravish leadership watched Jian's broadcast with shock. They had expected humanity to destroy them. They had prepared for annihilation. Instead, they were being offered mercy. Hanuel, who had been working as a liaison with liberated civilizations, saw the impact immediately. The species that the Kravish had conquered for centuries were crying with relief. They had expected the humans to become new oppressors. Instead, they were being freed. "Humans don't conquer," one alien told her. "You protect. This is what the ancient civilizations feared. Not your weapons, your values." The Kravish government agreed to surrender. Their military laid down their weapons. Their leadership would stand trial for their crimes against the civilizations they had conquered, but the real change was happening within humanity itself. Scientist Junheo noticed it first in the genetic data. The warrior sequences were still active, but they were being balanced by other genes. Genes associated with empathy, cooperation, and compassion. The stress of constant warfare had activated the warrior nature. Now the act of choosing peace was activating something else. "We're not going back to what we were before," he explained to Dr. Minji. "But we're not staying as we became. We're finding a balance. We remember how to fight, but we also remember why we shouldn't unless we have to." Commander Sunwoo felt it too. The tactical clarity was still there. He could still see strategies and weaknesses with unnatural precision. But he was also seeing people again, not just soldiers. He cared about casualties, not just victory. "I think this is what we were always meant to be," he told Teeman. "Not warriors or pacifists, but both. We can fight when we must, but we choose peace when we can." The Galactic Coalition held an emergency session. Many species had expected humanity to become the new threat. Instead, they had watched humanity defeat a powerful enemy and then offer mercy. Council Prime Jian addressed the council. "The ancient civilizations left us a warning: never awaken Earth's warriors. They were right to fear us. We are dangerous when provoked. We adapt, we learn, we never surrender until we win. But they were wrong about one thing. We can control it. We are not slaves to our nature. We choose when to fight and when to stop." The Thalen representative, who had been humanity's harshest critic, stood up. "What you have done should have been impossible. No species has ever weaponized their own evolution and then reversed it." "We didn't reverse it," Jian corrected. "We integrated it. The warrior nature is part of us now, but so is everything else that makes us human." A new charter was proposed. Humanity would join the Galactic Coalition as full members. Not prisoners, not outsiders, but partners. In exchange, humanity would help protect the galaxy from threats like the Kravish. "You want us to be your warriors?" Jian said carefully. "We want you to be our guardians," the Thalen representative replied. "There is a difference." The Watchers deactivated their monitoring stations for the first time in 3,000 years. Their vigil was over. In a final message, they said simply, "We were wrong. Not about your danger, but about what to do with it. Suppression created pressure. Understanding creates balance. We hope other civilizations learn from our mistake." Captain Daesung returned to Osnath Prime, to the Valkyrie archive where everything had begun. He placed a new data crystal among the ancient warnings. He recorded a message that future civilizations might find. Every dead civilization had one rule: never awaken Earth's warriors. They were right to fear us. When humanity is threatened, we become something terrifying. We adapt faster than anyone can predict. We sacrifice without hesitation. We never surrender. We win. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. But here is the new rule: never give humanity a reason to wake. Approach us in peace, and you will find peace. Trade with us, learn from us, grow with us. We will be your strongest allies. But attack us, threaten us, harm our innocent.